Importing data into a database sounds easy until your data has 10 million rows, half the dates are in the wrong format, and someone encoded everything in latent 1. Imagine you receive two files and our goal is to load them into MySQL. The same concepts apply to PostgreSQL, SQL Server, MariaDB, Oracle, and just about every relational database. Before importing anything, look at the data you have. Open the SQL file or your CSV. Skim through the table structure. Check how many indexes you have and what are they. Verify the encoding. Look for null values. Double check the date formats or the delimiters columns are separated by. If you skip this step, your database will happily store garbage with enterprise-level efficiency. The next step depends on whether you import raw text or CSV files or SQL backups. With raw files, you may need to create any necessary tables. You need to define the table structure and any primary keys, foreign keys, data types, and constraints. If you import files exported from an SQL client and they come in an SQL file type, any databases, tables, indexes, and relationships between them will be created for you, but such an import operation will also likely take a longer time to complete. But there's a catch. Doing everything the vanilla way tells your database to recreate all of the data. If you import a lot of data, you should use bulk importing tools instead because they are designed to minimize transaction overhead and optimize disk writes according to your database configuration. In other words, there are tools that lessen the burden that your database goes through when importing data using a bulk loading utility. As far as those go, PostgreSQL has copy, MySQL has load data in file, SQL Server uses bulk insert, Oracle has SQL loader. With an adequate configuration, instead of importing hundreds of rows per second, you import tens of millions. If you cannot use bulk importing tools, consider wrapping your insert queries inside transactions, merging many insert queries into one big insert query and importing everything that way, or turning off auto-commit and committing after all operations are completed for maximum efficiency. Besides, always keep in mind that the operations you will be able to perform depend on your database configuration. PostgreSQL has postgres.conf, MySQL has my.cnf, Firebird has firebird.conf, SQL Server has a configuration manager, and other databases have their own equivalents. The configuration settings in these files control the resources in your server, such as the memory allocation, buffer sizes, temporary storage, and the number of concurrent connections. They can also influence limits on transaction size, lock management, and logging behavior, meaning that if these settings are too conservative, large imports may be slow or even fail due to insufficient memory or transaction log space, which is something you have to account for. After your data import is complete, verify your data, count the rows, check for missing indexes and verify duplicates if any. Run a few sample queries, and if everything goes well, count the import operation as a success. Before doing that, always keep an eye out for common mistakes. Importing data without backups is a bad idea because if something goes wrong, recovering your database may be difficult or impossible. Ignoring character encoding can result in corrupted text, turning names, addresses, and other string values into unreadable characters. Using varchar or text for every column may seem convenient, but choosing appropriate data types improves data integrity, storage efficiency, and query performance. Disabling constraints or removing indexes to speed up an import is sometimes necessary, but forgetting to re-enable or add them afterwards can leave your database with invalid or inconsistent data, or with select queries that take decades to complete. Finally, don't assume the source data is correct. Missing values, duplicates, invalid dates, and broken references are surprisingly common, so always validate your data before and after the import. Finally, keep in mind that importing data isn't about moving rows from one place to another. It's about preserving integrity, maintaining relationships, and ensuring every query built yesterday returns trustworthy results tomorrow. If you enjoyed this video, subscribe for more database deep dives, and I'll see you in the next one.